YouTube right now.
Welcome back to the GSMC Hockey Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. We're here back talking with our third segment of the night. We just got finished talking about middle teams going all in for next season. Now we're talking about the divisions, ranking them from 4 to 1 here. And I'm going to start off, and this has nothing to do with the top end talent of it, but I'm going to start off with the Pacific. I think the Pacific is the worst team in the NHL, or worst team. The worst division in the NHL for next season. Might I say that this NHL might be the most talented it's ever been. Like, truly, every team is full of talent, and it's something new, and I can't wait to see how this plays out for next year. I'm very excited for next season, as I think it might be one of the best NHL seasons we've seen ever, honestly. Last year, with the fantastic playoffs, I loved watching the playoffs, and I'm so excited to just get back into more hockey. It finished a week ago, and I'm already having withdrawals from it. It's so much fun to watch, and next year, I think, is full of crazy things that's going to happen, because I believe that a lot of teams are going to take big steps forward and some teams are going to take huge steps back. Speaking of some teams that I expect to take huge step backs, I don't like what the LA Kings did this offseason. I think that they got worse this offseason. And I think that they're going to end up not being a playoff team from their third position. I think the Calgary Flames have entered into a rebuild. I think the Anaheim Ducks and San Jose Sharks are still too young to contend. I think 5 playoff spots are going to go to the Central this next season. So I expect the Vancouver Canucks to be good. I expect the Edmonton Oilers to be one of the best teams in the NHL. And I expect the Vegas Golden Knights, because it seems like the Vegas Golden Knights can never be bad, to also be pretty good next season. But without Jonathan Marchessault, it's going to be interesting to see what the Vegas Golden Knights actually do look like in reality instead of on paper for next season. I can't wait to do my season preview on Vegas, because I think that that's going to be one of the more interesting teams in the NHL. But for this, before the Pacific, I think that they have 4 teams that are in or just now coming out of a rebuild in the Flames, Kraken, Ducks, and Sharks, who are all going to be pretty bad next season. And then I also think the LA Kings will get worse, around like 80-something points for the Kings, and miss the playoffs. So I have the Pacific at the last. There's not too much to talk about there. The San Jose Sharks were like generationally bad last year, so it's going to be interesting to see, but I do believe that it's not going to look too pretty talking about the Pacific Division. Next up for the for the Central, I think will be the third division here. I do like what the Central did. However, I think the Eastern Conference is way too good. Truly, I think that all 16 teams in the Eastern Conference are have improved a lot, and I think that all of them will look very good. So for the bottom teams in the Central, I think it's going to be the Blackhawks, the Wild, and the Blues. All are going to have disappointing years next season, which leaves, I did say that there's going to be 5 playoff teams in the Central. That leaves, I think the Avs are going to win this division. I think the Predators are going to come second in this division, both on around 100 points. I think the Stars are going to be very good still next season. I think they're going to be around 100 points. I think the Wild are going to take a step forward, because I do really like that core. And then I think the Winnipeg Jets will still be a good team. Or, I already said the Jets. I think that the Utah Hockey Club are going to be pretty good. I really like what Utah did going into the season. You have very great young players like Logan Cooley, Clayton Keller, Dylan Gunther, who are all very fantastic young players. And then they went out and got Mikhail Sergachev, and they added more and more depth to that defense. And that forward core does look extremely talented. And if TJ Ginla is ready next season, let him play, man. That guy can be a very fantastic, just athletic freak for you. So it's going to be interesting what the Central does look like next season, see how it does shape out. I do expect the it to be very, very contention. It's going to be in hard contention for the Central and to win it. As I don't think it's kind of dry. A lot of guys are just saying it's the Predators to lose. I do believe that other teams like the Avs, like the Stars, like the Wild, like the Utah Hockey Club are going to contend in the Central. And the Jets could still squeak into the playoffs. I mean, they just had 110 points. But they did lose a good amount in this offseason. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. Next up, I have the two Eastern Conference divisions being above the two Western Conference divisions. I do believe that the East is so much better than the West. For the second place, it's very close. I might switch it right now, honestly. I might switch it right now. I'm going to have the Atlantic at number 2. This past season, cut and dry, clearly the best division in all of hockey was the Atlantic. However, for next year, I think the Montreal Canadiens are still in their rebuild. I think the Ottawa Senators aren't going to be as good as they expect themselves to be. I don't think the Buffalo Sabres are too ready quite yet to compete in the Atlantic. I think give them one more year and they're a playoff team. They break their drought, but I still don't think that they break the drought in this next year. That leaves 5 more teams to talk about. The Toronto Maple Leafs have gotten worse, considerably worse. I don't think that they're going to be as good as they were last season. They got way older too, on a team with a team that's already a little bit too old for my liking. With John Tavares playing on that first or second line, it looks like he's lost a step from his Islanders days. And then you're going out and getting OEL and Chris Tanev, 2 older defensemen as well. So it might look a little bit rough in Toronto. They still will make the playoffs. They're still way too talented to miss the playoffs. But however, I don't it's going to be another first round exit for them. Next up, it will be the Boston Bruins, probably at the top here. I think that they did enough to maintain their position up top. They got Elias Lindholm, which is going to be a great acquisition for the Boston Bruins. We're actually going to do a deep dive into the Boston Bruins in the 4th segment, so I'm not going to be talking about them too much here. You have the Florida Panthers, the Stanley Cup winning Florida Panthers. They did lose a couple of big names. They lost Oliver Ekman-Larsson. They lost Ryan Lundberg or Philip Broberg. They lost Ryan Lundberg. Philip Broberg played for the Oilers. I just tossed those two in a hat together. Both those names are way too similar in my head. They lost Oliver Ekman-Larsson, Ryan Lundberg, and they also lost one more piece to that core that was very important. They lost Kyle Okposo as well. But they were able to keep Sam Reinhart, which is huge for them. So for the Florida Panthers, I think they repeat in the Atlantic. But honestly, I think the Tampa Bay Lightning take a step back without Steven Stamkos. I don't think Jake Gensel can do what Steven Stamkos does. And they also lose Mikhail Sergachev, which is huge. So I do think the Tampa Bay Lightning take a step back next season. They might not make the playoffs next year, and I wouldn't be too shocked about it, especially with the Red Wings, maybe even the Sabres coming up as we expect them to do. So that's the Atlantic. They do come in at 2nd place on my division rankings, and then that leaves the top being the Metro. The Metro has been the most complete division since these divisions really have been a thing, especially because Ovi, Crosby have played in the same division for so many years. It makes it a little bit difficult. But both of them both of them regressing a lot, and I think the Penguins fall off is finally going to happen this next season. They almost squeaked into the playoffs. They were 3 points away from a playoff spot last year. I think this is the year that the Penguins take over as the bottom team in the Metro. I think that the other teams have done so well at improving that it looks a lot different the Metro does next year. So I think the Penguins fall off. I think, as I mentioned, the Hurricanes can fall off heavily, and I wouldn't be too shocked. They might drop 50 points from this season. Well, not 50, but they might drop 30 to 40 points from this season, and I wouldn't be too shocked about it. I think the Rangers could fall off a good bit, but with all of these teams falling off, you also have a lot of teams making some huge improvements, like the Blue Jackets, like the Devils, like the Flyers, like the Capitals, like the Islanders, all have made some big improvements to be better next season. I still think the Rangers hold on to that top spot in the Metro. I still think that they are the most talented team in the Metro, looking at that top 6, and they still haven't lost Jacob Trouba yet, which I do believe is a fantastic piece for that team. They still have Igor Shesterkin in net. I think that team can go back-to-back winning the Metro. I don't think that they are President's Trophy winning next season as they were this past year, but they definitely could be the top team. And then you have the Islanders who look really good, the Capitals who look really good, the Flyers who look really good, the Devils who look really good, and the Blue Jackets who look really good. This division might get 5 teams into the playoffs, which would be which would be a shock with how good the Atlantic is, but I wouldn't be, it's not too far off from saying that. Especially with how I do believe that some teams in the Atlantic will decline heavier than the teams in the Metro. So that'll wrap it up from ranking the divisions. Post free agency, it went Metro top, Atlantic second, Central third, and Pacific is the bottom 4th. When I come back from my third break of the night, we'll be talking about Boston Bruins season preview.